All right, so good afternoon, everybody. It's very nice to see that we have nearly half of those who registered on for the creative writing workshop today is already on and on time. Sorry. Today is actually a very exciting day because we get to partner with somebody from the Caribbean who I consider to have even more experience than I may have or any of our teachers may have, because she's been doing this for many, many years. And that is Miss Ria Ali from Trinidad and Tobago. And she is the owner of the Creative Writing Institute. And today she will be helping you, she will be aiding you in preparing for the writing component of your exam.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Mills.
You're welcome.
It is a pleasure to be here, and I'm very, very happy for the opportunity to help in any way I can. Children is always my passion to help, especially in the arena of writing. As Ms. said, the Creative Writing Institute, what I do here in Trinidad and Tobago, and it reaches beyond that as well, is focus on writing and bringing back the enthusiasm for writing. And I understand that grade 6 exams would be just around the corner for you. In Trinidad and Tobago, we just had students sit the SCA exam, where they also have to look at their writing component being report writing and narratives. And you all have narrative, you all have expository, and you all have persuasive. And I thought that was quite interesting because we don't do persuasive until secondary school. So I'm going to try to make this as easy as possible for you. And it's going to be a wealth of information I'm going to share with you. I like to have a process, and I like to use formulas, which makes life easy. So as we go through the 3 genres that you will be tackling for your exam, I want you to pay attention to the formulas that we'll be going through. It's really designed to make life simple for you. So if you choose to do the narrative, if you choose to do the, if you choose to do the, if you choose to do the narrative, if you choose to do the expository piece, if you choose to do the persuasive, you would have a solid plan to work with. All right, so are we excited? Are we ready to get started?
Yes, Miss.
Yes,
Miss. Yes, Miss.
Very good. Here on at 2 o'clock, it says a lot to me. Definitely, we are going to work together and make this a very enjoyable process. All right, so I'm going to stop my screen here and I'm going to share the content that I have prepared for you. So we're going to go through with narrative writing first. And again, as best as possible, we would try to understand the formulas, and this would be used when you are writing your pieces. Now, in your grade 6 paper, when you get your paper, the first thing that I want you to do in all of your questions would be to assess the question. And this would be for narrative, expository, persuasive. Because it is the most important of the question, really and truly speaks to you understanding what you have to give as an answer. So for the narrative writing, the assessing question would really focus on 3 parts. Number 1, you would read your question, and when you read your question, you would underline certain key elements from the question itself. The question will give you setting, character, problem, and any other key point. You would also put your question in a category. So we're on point number C here, right? So you'd put your question in a category. There are 2 types of stories we have for narrative writing. You can write fantasy stories, or you can write reality stories. Fantasy stories would be stories that you can come up with anything that your mind can think of. So it can be ghosts. So you all know what sukunya is? The creature that flies in the night, ball of fire.
Yes, yes, Miss.
Because I think across the Caribbean,
Miss, the black pink, Miss.
very good. Because across the Caribbean, what we share a lot of folklore characters. So you would find that you would hear about the Sukunya, you would hear about, you all know about the Lajables as well? Duens. Yes, Papa Boa as well, Anansi.
Miss.
Very good. Very good. So that makes us all connected. So you can create stories based on these characters and bring them to life. So that would be your fantasy category. But then we also have stories that are real life situations. For example, you may have a story that asks you to write a story about a neighbor's house that caught fire. So this is not going to be Sukunya dropping her broom on the house, right? You're going to say that the stove was left on, the heater was left on, there was a faulty electrical circuit, there was a candle. So we have to just understand that there are two categories we can write stories under: fantasy, reality. And then once we understand that we place our stories in a category, the next thing we'll do is get an idea for our stories. So I'm going to quickly switch on here and show you how it's done. So when with the assessment, as I said, the first thing that you do is underline. So notice here in the example, we underlined, you were home alone when you saw smoke coming from your neighbor's house. Write a story of what happened next. So we underline you, and you would be character. We underline home alone, which would be the setting, but it's also a problem. Then you saw smoke, also a problem, coming from where? Your neighbor's house. So another part of the setting. Write the story of what happened next. That's a key point. So this is a reality story because, again, it only would be based on the reasons why the house caught on fire. This wouldn't be a Sukunya dropping a ball of fire on the house because it strays away when you start to write a story like that. Yes, the house will be on fire because the Sukunya dropped something on it, but then you have to characterize your Sukunya. Why did Sukunya do something like that? So what happens there is that the story starts to move away and gets more into the Sukunya and all of that. And we take away from the description of the house on fire, the feelings and the emotions of the owners of the house and the neighbors, the firefighters. So that is the story we would want when it comes to a question like this. Now we have another question here. So let's look at this one. You and your friends were walking home one afternoon when you saw a strange shadow approaching. Write the story of this experience. So again, we underline, you and your friends would be characters. Be walking home one afternoon, setting. When you saw a strange shadow will be the problem and it's approaching. The story of this experience will be a key point. In this question here, your question would be, is it fantasy, reality, or both? What do you think this one would be?
Both.
Both. Very good. Both. Very good, because we have to ask ourselves who or what would be the?
Strange shadow.
Very good. Excellent. And that could be, what are some, let's hear one fantasy idea. What could that strange shadow be?
A Sukuya.
Kunya.
Asukuya.
A black rangoon.
Asukuya.
A goat.
Good. Very good. And what about reality? What would
A murderer.
A shadow.
excellent.
A killer.
Very good. Very good. Kidnapper. But look how easy for feedback. Okay, so excellent. Very good job. So you all see the difference between fantasy, reality, and there are some questions that can be both. Now, in terms of getting ideas, we have a formula here called hearts. And hearts really and truly would be at the bottom of the page here. It would be horror stories, adventure stories, reality, tragedy, or sad, surprise, happy type stories. So it simply is, when you see the question, ask yourself, am I writing a horror type story here? Is it a Sukunya? Is it a ghost? Am I writing an adventure? Adventure could be things like encountering Bigfoot, a mermaid. Am I doing a reality situation? Is it winning a prize? Is it a house on fire, a hurricane? Is it tragedy or sad? Example, that you fell down, you broke your ankle. That's a sad situation. Is it surprise or happy? A birthday party, surprise party. So the HEARTS formula simply asks us to think along certain specific lines. That's all it does. But based on what you all would have said just now for this question here, I truly believe from the time you see the question, you know fantasy reality, I know you all will come up with certain ideas. I think what a good strategy would be is to have, so for example, those of you who like the fantasy characters, let's say you like the Sukunya, get about 3. So Sukunya, you have a vampire, and you have a ghost. And what you could do is just do a little paragraph on the character so that when you sit to write the exam, if you choose the narrative story and the question comes that you can use a fantasy idea, you already know how your Sukunya looks, the ball of fire, the blazing red ball in the sky. So you'd have some ideas behind the characterization for your development, right? So we have now the fantasy reality again. So look at number 1. Let me just zoom out here so we don't see the note. So I'm going to ask you all to read as well and help here. So Adhari, can you read the question here in green? Adhari,
Let us say
You and your friends went on a fishing trip. While out at sea, the waves become rough and the sky turned dark. Write the story of what happened that day.
very good. So children, is it fantasy, reality, or both?
Reality.
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 What
Reality.
reality on? Anybody think it's fantasy? So you went on a fishing trip and it became rough and the sky turned dark. So what about if your boat overturned and you end up in Atlantis, underwater world? You encounter a gigantic squid. Can you see that happen?
It's a fantasy.
It could be fantasy. Yes, it could
Fantasy.
be as well.
fantasy.
Can you all see how it is fantasy?
Both.
Yes, both. Both. Can you all see how it can be fantasy?
Yes.
Reality. Very good. So for reality, what would be the idea here? Simply that your boat probably got overturned and then you had to get the Coast Guard to come and help you.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
So at the bottom here,
Or like I was surrounded by sharks.
yes, and you have to get rescued. That is not a good situation. Very good. So at the bottom here in white, we have an explanation here. But again, you all can read this. We are going through, and once we are going to do the understanding part of it. So I'm going to go into question 2 here. So we are testing our skills of assessing here. So can I ask Denari Williams, can you read this one for us, please? Denari? All right. Malia, go ahead.
You were playing with slime one day when the slime began to write the story of what whichever slime turned into and how his experience ended.
Okay, so Malia, tell me, what do you think it is? Fantasy, reality, or both?
Fantastic.
Fantasy, very good. Everybody agrees? Can this be reality in any way?
No.
No, miss.
No. Can your slime move and become into some kind of creature?
No, miss. No, miss. It's not.
No, so it's only fantasy. Excellent. So what creature would you want your slime to turn into?
An octopus.
A blob.
A blob?
Oh, but slime.
A dragon.
A big slime.
A big blob.
Big blob, very good. Well, I hope that that blob is going to be useful for us. That blob should help us clean and wash dishes and all of that, right? Excellent
Yes.
idea. So we are going to jump into the other part. So after you have done the assessment of the question, so you have your question in front of you, take your pencils and underline, and you put your C, you put your S for character, P for problem, and KP for key point. So after we do that, we say, okay, is this fantasy reality? We say, okay, it's fantasy. Get an idea one time. Blob. We get an idea for reality and we go with it. Now, after we have done that, the next step is to plan with another formula. And this formula is hierarchy. Now, what this formula does, any examiner who is marking your work, they would be looking for the elements of the plot. So the elements of the plot is simply how a story is developed. And it's already what you know, the introduction, the middle, and the end, beginning, middle, and end. Everybody knows that structure? The
Yes,
introduction.
miss.
Same thing. We just put it together in this weird little formula. We call it hierarchy. So I is for the introduction. R is for the rising action, where you start to build your story towards the climax or the high point. So the C is the climax or the high point. Oftentimes the climax is also the conflict or the problem. Then the falling action is how this problem is solved. And the end is the, you wrap up things at the end of the story. So I will tell you two things that students usually do, and we are not doing this, but the two areas to be careful of is the introduction, the rising action over here. What happens is that sometimes students take this and they put it together as one. And that's how they end up losing marks, because this here is not supposed to be squished into one. And then they end the story here. So there's no ending of the story. So that means that they end their story very abruptly or suddenly, right? So look out for those two things, because that is usually the problem areas. So with the hierarchy, we have this question here. All right. And let us look at this question. So let me ask Dimitri, can you read this one for us? The question in blue.
You were at the beach when you decided to explore your surroundings. Write the story of the adventure you had.
Excellent. Now, children, before we get into hierarchy, let's go back into the steps we just discussed. What would be important to underline here?
The characters.
Before we go to character, tell me, what are we underlining? Just tell me what we're underlining first. You?
The character.
Yeah. So let's read the question, right? So you, and what else are we underlining? Where are we?
At the beach.
We're at the beach.
Good. And what else?
Decided to explore your surroundings.
The rising action.
Next, what are we
Write the
writing?
story on the adventure you had.
Very good. So what would be our character? Who would be our character?
You.
You. Very good. And then characters? Any other characters? No. So where is it setting the story?
Beach. Beach. At the beach.
Very
At the beach.
And what is the key point?
Decide to explore your surroundings.
This question have a problem per se, or do we have to create one?
Create
one.
Very good. So we have that. So this is a key point. So we don't really have a problem. If we want a problem, we create it, right? So that's why it's important to read the question. And you see what we have here. We underline character, setting, and the key points.
Miss, you lagging. Your voice lagging, miss.
Yes, Miss, you're glitching. I think
Miss, your voice lagging.
underline that as
Your voice is glitching, miss.
Miss, you're glitching.
Miss, your voice glitching.
Your voice is corrupted.
Are you guys
Miss,
hearing me any better?
Yes,
yes,
Yeah.
miss.
Yes,
Yes,
miss.
miss.
Okay.
Yes, miss.
All right, great. So now that we have underlined, so this is step one. Step two now, is this fantasy, reality, or both?
Mm,
Both.
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 Very good. I always say that my handwriting is not great at all, right? So just, that my little scratch and so on that I'm making here, just forgive me for that. But so it will be both. You are correct. So we just looked at step one and step two again. So we underline character setting problem key point. This one didn't have a problem. That's okay. So we go into fantasy reality now. Step two, it is both. So we came up with an idea here. And the idea was that we are going to end up in Atlantis. We are going to find mermaids. So let's look at how we can use Irakafe now to plan this story. So this is our plot, right? So let's go down here. So again, our plan here would be Irakafe. And our question, let me just try to get done in here. Right. So we are seeing the screen here. This is a question we just underlined. We said it's both fantasy and reality. Let's look at how we can use Irakafe to plan the story of the encounter with the mermaids. So, Carrie, can you read Irakafe for us, please?
Carrie.
I'm seeing a Carrie. Is there a Carrie here?
Miss, I can see.
You can go ahead, Marshall. Read it for us.
Leah and I were what, miss?
That would be introduction. The I is for introduction. So introduction, Leah and I.
Introduction. Leah and I were exploring the beach. R is I spotted a boat and asked Leah to go rowing. C. We drifted away from the shore. A huge wave toppled us. Fa. We were washed up on Atlantis, saved by a mermaid. E. Mermaid returned us safely to beach.
Very good. So we have now an entire story developing around this question where we end up in Atlantis. So we start off with our introduction. Leah and I were exploring the beach. So you describe your setting of the beach, describe Leah's personality a little bit. Now remember, personality can be done through dialogue, actions. So Leah could say, hey, come on, let's go and explore. And the friend, you can say, okay, no problem. Leah was adventurous. She saw the boat. She encouraged me to go on. And then you started to go. Yes, you can develop that. She's a curious girl by nature, right? Then the conflict, as we are rowing, you're enjoying the skies and so on, a huge wave. So you describe the setting now of the wave, gigantic ocean, blue, misty, fear pounded. Your heart was palpitating in your chest when you saw this giant wave coming at you. It toppled over the boat. You're hearing Leah screaming. Panic seized her. And then the falling action, you open your eyes, you are in Atlantis. So now you have to do a second setting. So you're seeing shells around, you describe Atlantis, you're seeing people with tails, you're wondering what's happening, you realize you could breathe underwater, you put your feelings in, your eyes widened with amazement. And then the mermaid comes over, her name is Aurora, and she's telling you that, she saved you, she saw the boat topple over, and whenever you all are ready, she will take you back home. And then that's the end of the story. You come back home to the shore, you realize that your parents didn't even miss you. And you say, okay, Leah, this was our little secret. And that's how you end the story. So Irakafe helps us to plan every part of the plot. It is not paragraphs because the climax of the story could be 2 paragraphs. The falling action can be 3 paragraphs because Iraqafe is points. This is the plot of the story. Everybody understands that? It's not 5 paragraphs, but
Yes,
it's more
miss.
very,
Yes, miss.
very good. So
Yes, miss.
we have character. As I said, there's a formula to develop character. And this formula is called PAPED. It's a little funny formula again. So whether you say paped or paped, it's fine. So we describe our characters through physical features. That's how they look. Actions, that's what they do. Personality, that is who they are. Are they kind? Are they, generous? Then you have emotions, how they make us feel, how they make others feel around them. And then you have dialogue, the things that they say. So let's look quickly at how we have characterization done, and we have a mythical creature here. So we have this PAPED done here. Anybody would like to read? You can just put your hands up. All right, Giovanni, go ahead and read this one for us.
Characterization of mythical creatures. I was horrified to see the pretty child hand that held mine was worn, black as ash and skeletal. My eyes widened as the realization dawned that the child was naked except for the white straw-brimmed hat that covered her face. Her pale blue lips were visible, and I mentally lost my composure as I saw her feet were turned backward. Physical features. The legendary figure suddenly towered over me. Its eyes pierced my soul as the bony figures lunged forward. Action. I immediately recalled Nana's stories of children like these. They were called Yuins. Children who died when they were young and before being christened, their souls were unable to rest. Personality. My chest constricted as the trepidation poked an icy finger at my chest. Emotional response. Get away from me. My voice trembled.
Very good. From this description, what do you think this character is?
A demon.
Sukuya.
It's no, not a
Zombie.
When?
well, it's like a so we have so notice that what are some of the physical features of this character? Is it an adult? Is it a child?
It's a child.
A child.
Soul. It's
Good.
a soul.
So the child, what so somewhere down in the description, they named the character. What was the name for the character? It was called a duet. Very good. A duet.
Duet.
What was the explanation about the duet? That they were children.
Children. And they were
Died
naked.
when they were young and before being.
So these were children
who died before they were Christianized.
Very good. So these are children who would have died before being christened. So it means that they would not have been baptized. And the legend has it that they would roam the forest and they would lure other children to come and play with them because they are lonely. And when the other children go off into the forest, they too will turn into duendes. So these are this is a character that is quite popular here, and of course scary because it's it's little children who are basically, as you all are saying, zombies, right? So our descriptions should be very clear when we are writing. Did you all get a visual in your head with the straw brim hat, face covered?
Yes,
Yes,
miss.
miss.
Yes, miss.
Yes.
Right? Yes. I'm hearing some scary voices coming out, but it's a nice folklore. But the point is the formula PAPD helps us to create that visual image very clear of any character. So even if you've never seen this character before, when you read, you should be able to have a mental image of this character. So this is an example of how PAPED works. All right. Then we move on to setting. Now setting, would be another important fact. Now, again, I know this is basically rushing through, but the setting, the things that are important to develop in your story will be character and the setting. So I can send over some things for Miss to share with you. If you would like to read a little bit more on the character stuff, I would send a little bit more, but I was just hoping to give you something where the formula is here. So when you are using the formula, just pull out your vocabulary and remember to do the actions, use the physical features, use the personality and dialogue to help you, especially with your development. So we are going on. Any questions before we go on to setting? Anybody? Any question? Okay.
No, miss.
No, miss.
No, miss. No.
So for setting,
Nothing, miss.
can tell me what they know setting to be. What is setting? Giovanni?
Miss. Setting is the place where something occurs.
Very good. So we have
the
place.
place where something is taking place.
Very good. Anything else besides place?
Setting.
Physical place.
The
Setting.
setting is
Yes, go ahead.
Setting is where the story takes place.
Is setting only place? Setting also it has to do with
Time.
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 when the story
Very
takes
good.
place.
So setting has very good. So setting has to do with three things: the time, the place, and the creation of a mood. Example, if you are in a haunted house and you are at the beach, is it going to be a difference in how you feel?
Means you're going to shiver.
Yes, miss.
Yes.
Yes.
So what I want you all to focus on is this. Setting is time and place. So time being daytime, nighttime, 2 o'clock, morning, sunset time. And it's also place, mall, school, beach, haunted house, and it's also how you feel. If you are doing a haunted house, you are going to choose certain words that will bring out a scary feeling. If you are at home and you're having fun, or you're at the beach, you're going to choose words that will bring about a very happy feeling. So setting has three things in it. So what I did to make life easy for you, I pulled out some of these setting paragraphs, some little things. You can go through them and you can probably choose things or words that you see that you can use in any setting for your stories. So we have the popular ones will be early morning, nighttime. The fire is also a popular one. If there's a house on fire story, there's the sunset, there's rain as well. Of course, you can have a setting of a haunted house, a setting of a beach, because those are also settings that you can use in your writing. So this page here, we're just going to read through. You'll get some vocabulary. Again, I can send over some things for Miss as well to send to you with setting involved. Basically, it's vocabulary that you can use when you're writing certain setting pieces. So we have early morning. So volunteers, you just put your hands up and I will call you to read. So Kedori, you can read the first one, Giovanni the second one, Noreen the third one, Marshall the fourth one, and Ashani the fifth one.
As the golden order rose from its slumber, the horizon was lit with an iridescent tint. Hue of orange and gold. The fleecy white clouds floated lazily in the circumambient skies as an imperceptible waft of wind whips gently at the nape of my neck.
Very good. So just to help you with some vocabulary here, iridescent, you all ever see something that it's not actually blue or green, but it has like a pearly shine. Any direction you turn, it's a different color.
Yes, miss.
That is what you
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
That's called iridescent. A hue is another word for color, and cerulean is a nice word for blue. As lovely as that word is, it simply means blue skies, right? Oh, that is something that is easily passing across. So the wind just passes gently at the nape of your neck, right? So vocabulary, as always, is important in our writing. So wherever we see it, always take it down. You all have Google and you can Google it. I always say, even at this stage, I still do that. That's something my teacher told me in school. And trust me, it works well. So we have night. Let's read the night and then fire.
Night. The night was inky black. Not a shred of light penetrated the thick canopy of darkness. The towering sentinel-like trees formed ghastly figures that lined the narrow and isolated streets. A brisk wind nipped at the scruff of my neck, and a cold air invigorated my senses.
Okay, very good. So between this one, early morning and night, which one has a scarier feeling?
Night.
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 So
Night.
very what I
Night.
for you, the use of your words would be very important. So we have thick canopy of darkness. You have ghastly figures, narrow, isolated street. So these things that makes it feel very scary, not so? And in the above,
Yes.
have fleecy white clouds, lazy blue skies, and the wind gently at the back of your neck. So you get more like a relaxed feeling with the first one, correct?
Yes, miss.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, miss.
Words, I want to just show you words that we use make a difference in our writing. So at any point, if you are doing any reading, comprehension, anything, and there's a word that you see or even hear, because sometimes for me, I hear some words on the TV, and I would just go and look it up. And that's how you improve your vocabulary. And you'd realize there's some very simple words like cerulean. That's a fancy word for the color blue. Very, very simple, right? So let's look at fire. This is a popular question, fire stories. So let's go ahead.
An arak fire. An ar ac
Acrid,
an acrid scent
it's a burning, permeated,
permeated the atmosphere as columns of smoke spiraled into the air. The avaricious
av- avaricious,
Avaricious flames raged, and I could hear the crackling sound devouring everything in its path. As the searing flames rapidly consumed the helpless structure, a thick black canopy of smoke blanketed the sky. An intense heat radiated from the relentless flames as everything turned to ashes.
very good. So acrid is a nice word that simply means like a burning smell. Permeated means that it filled the entire space. And then we had avaricious. Avaricious is a very nice word for greedy. That's all it means, greedy, right? So this is fire. Now we have sunset.
As a glorious yellow sphere descended beneath the horizon, a luscious huge of gold rays cast long shadows of stillness across the vista. An earthly sense enveloped the atmosphere as a cool zephyr kisses a nape of my neck with the impending promise of a star-huge night.
Hung night. Very good. So we have the lustrous hue. So we don't just say that the sun just went down and the place got nice and dark. Lustrous hue, golden rays, shadows of stillness. The vista is just a view. There's an earthy scent. The cool zephyrs, a zephyr is a wind, caressing the nape of my neck. And so we have the sunset coming about. Of course, you can do this totally different. You can have the brilliant colors of the sky or illuminated, the sinking sun in the horizon. So there are different phrases that you can use to describe your setting. Again, the importance is vocabulary and the word choice that you have. So Rain, who's reading Rain? I'm not sure if I called somebody to read Rain.
Miss, can I read Rain?
Sure.
Miss, can I read Rain?
So
I
everybody
read
will get
it too.
everybody will get a chance to read. All right. So
Okay.
Miss,
uh
can I do?
where did we
Miss,
stop?
can I read Rain?
Giovanni, because we just Adari just read. So Giovanni, read.
As an ominous canopy of grey filled the vast expanse above, the swollen clouds threatened to burst forth with an abundance of rain. The lightning drew jagged patterns across the inky black skies, which coordinated with the bellowing thunder.
Very good. So we have the description of rain here. So again, children, for setting, the word choices would be important. So you have to choose your words carefully. Also, you use your 5 senses. Most of the times, you will use the sense of what you hear and what you see. Everybody is okay with setting?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
miss.
Yes, miss.
Yes,
Yes,
miss.
yes, miss.
Yes.
And
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
so, good afternoon to those who just came in. We are looking at narrative writing first. We would have gone through the steps, which would be the assessing of the question. Now we just looked at character and setting, and now we are looking at feelings. So, with our feelings here, we have very important in any narrative story, we have to talk about feelings, the characters, and how they feel. So, what I did here, again, I put together some paragraphs here where you can have the different feelings coming about. So, with feelings, there are certain phrases that we can go through as well, like little short phrases. Again, I can get something and send it to Miss so that she can send it to you so that you can go through and choose what you would like to use. But we have happiness, we have fear, relief, um, you have sadness, and we have different other emotions like anger and so on. But I just chose the ones that are more prominent. So we are going to read these as well. And I think we are at, all right. So if you have read already, just put your hands down so it wouldn't be confusing. And so those who didn't get it, okay. So Tia, you can read first. Marshall,
Excuse me, miss.
yes.
Can I read fair after?
Okay, all right. So Marshall, go ahead, and then Tia would read after.
Happiness. My eyes widened as I spotted the shiny wrapper. Immediately, my heart leapt with elation. Jubilation consumed me like a tidal wave. I cartwheeled with utter joy towards the gigantic wrapped box. As I excitedly ripped away the layer of paper, exuberance filled me with the brim as I saw before my eyes the gift I wanted with all my heart. A bite!
Very good. Tia, ready for us?
You second go for relief.
All right. Well, if Tia isn't ready, Rose, can you continue?
Miss
Okay,
Me?
fear. Paralyzed with fear, I stood dumbstruck. My heart palpitated as fear overtook my body like the poisonous bite from a snake. In the distance, the lanky man, fully clad in black, dragged himself towards me with a menacing look on his face. My body felt as cold as ice as the silver shine of the knife in his hand stood out. My entire anatomy rocked with panic. Beads of Perspiration gushed down my forehead. My heart and stomach exchanged places at once. At that moment, panic lent wings to my feet as I ran for my life.
Very good. Ashani, go ahead. Relief.
In the distance, I heard the wailing of police sirens. The red and blue flashes filled the surrounding, much to my reprieve. Relief consumed me with a triumphant surge as I finally rescued. The burly policeman bird in a
Barged in.
badge in
Apre-
and apprehend the kidnappers, and tidal wave of relief swept over me as I heaved a lengthy sigh of liberation.
Very good. So these would be, yes, I'm sure that it can be. So these would be some phrases that you could use. So let's go through sadness. Next, Tia, you ready to read?
This me?
Yes, go ahead.
Heartbroken, I stood helplessly as I viewed my treehouse being burned to nothing but thick white ashes. Dejection consumed me like the greedy tongues which licked at the wooden construction I had placed so many fond memories in. My grief constricted my voice as the monstrous red and orange flames
Avaricious.
avariciously burned my only safe haven. My eyes welled.
Very good. So things like my eyes welled, grief constricted my voice,
Miss, the
dejection.
screen is too zoomed in. I can't see.
Can't see. Okay, are you seeing better there?
Yes, miss.
Okay, good. So those are some of the phrases. Again, what I did, I put the phrases together in short little paragraphs so that you can see how the emotions are developed in a story, right? So when we have, so we're going to do the review here now. So narrative writing review, we have the steps combined. So step number 1, assess your question. So the question here is a strange encounter. Is that fantasy, reality, or both? Noreen, is it fantasy, reality, or both? A strange encounter.
Both.
Both. Very good. All right. So Noreen, read. We have 2 ideas here for fantasy. Read the 2 ideas we came up for fantasy for the strange encounter.
Adventure encounter with a mermaid. A character from a movie. Example, Superman. Horror. Encounter with Annabelle, an evil possessed doll.
Very good. So under the fantasy, we had some adventure ideas. So we have the mermaid, we have Superman, we have horror ideas, Annabelle, the evil possessed doll. But we also have the story being reality as well. So Jardine, can you tell us what the reality suggestions would be?
Reality, encounter with a new student at school. Reality, meeting with the Prime Minister / President of the country.
Very good, because it's a strange encounter. So a stranger, do you think you would meet the president or prime minister at any point? Is that a normal
Yes.
occurrence?
Not all the time.
Not all the time. Good. So we have some of the fantasy and reality ideas. So after we underline, so step 1 again, we underline, then we ask ourselves fantasy, reality, or both. We come up with an idea and then we plan. So you use Irakafe to plan. So with Irakafe here, we have a mermaid encounter. And Jean Mick, I'm not sure if I enunciate that correct. Can you read the Irakafe plan for us? Jean? Sky. Okay, go ahead, Jean. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I went somewhere, so could you repeat what you said for me?
Sure. Can you just read this for us? The plan here. So you're going to read with the Iraqafe here.
Okay.
I
I went to the beach with my parents. R.A. went off exploring the beach. C. Came across a strange song, discovered a mermaid who was stuck. F.A. helped freed mermaid who took me on an adventure to her world as a thank you present. E. Returned safely to beach without any suspicion of my adventure and strange encounter.
Very good. So again, the review for the narrative is what step number 1, children? When we see our question, we
Underline.
very good.
My character.
What are we underlining and looking for?
Our character, setting,
Plot.
Problem.
Problem.
Very good. Setting, character, problem, or any other key point. Excellent. Step 2, ask ourselves if it is
Reality or fantasy.
Fantasy.
and then step 3, we get an idea, and what do? We plan with
Iraqafi.
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 Very good. Very good. So we plan with Iraqafi. Excellent. All right. So we have a little activity here for the narrative writing part here. So I have 6 questions here. What you can do is you can probably practice by writing these questions and practicing the writing of these stories on your own. Because again, our steps would be the same. You underline, you ask yourself if it's fantasy or reality, you come up with an idea, and then you plan with Iraqafi. All right? So far, so good?
Yes.
All right. So we are
Yes.
going to switch now. We're going to switch now into persuasive writing. All right. So persuasive writing, let's see, it's essentially writing to convince. That's the point of persuasive writing. So when we are finished reading your piece, we should say, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to believe what this is saying here because it makes so much sense. So for persuasive writing, again, read the question carefully, take your pencils and underline certain things from the question, any important things in the question, and pay attention to your vocabulary and content. So for persuasive writing, and this is a format here that we will use, we use IBC. So I is your introduction, B is your body, and C is your conclusion. That's the simplest structure. What we have further to that, and this is something I do with my CX. Oh, by the way, all of these things that we are learning here, I want you to remember you can learn and use these things from now until CXC. These are the strategies I use with my Form 5s to write CXC. So the strategy here is your introduction. You will use DET. DET means the first thing you do, define any concepts from the question itself. The E is to explain in about 2 or 3 sentences what the topic is about. T is for thesis statement. You all came across thesis statements already, yes?
Yes, miss.
Yes.
Yes.
The thesis, one sentence that tells us what your point is and what your view is, either yes or no, and also the 3 points to be discussed in the essay. When you go on to the body, those 3 paragraphs in the body, you would use TE. So T is for your topic sentence. That is one sentence that will tell you what the paragraph is going to be about. And then you would have E, explain the point in about 2 to 4 sentences. And then E is evidence. This is important. How we give evidence, you have different things that you could use. Facts, percentages, studies done. So for example, you can say in a study done by the Ministry of Health in Dominica, over 50% of students were not able to prepare for their exams because they had vision problems. That is an example. That's a solid example. So you'd have to learn how to make up examples that sound very believable. So you can use percentage, 40%, 50%, 1.2, or 1 in every 3 children. Things like a research done, right? And then the S is to summarize your point. And then you have conclusion, which is just restate your point, and S, final summary of your point of view. So let's look at how this formula works here, right? So we have this essay plan. So what I did, I put the plan, and then I did the entire essay for you, right? So the question was, and Miss would have given me this question, should parents limit the amount of time their children spend on their devices? What do you guys think? Should they? Yes or no?
No,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
no.
No, I know.
With your time to study.
At least for common entrance. At least for common entrance time.
I see. So here's the thing, right? When you're writing, I want you to choose the points that will not your personal opinion here, but the ones that will give you the points to write on. So yes, you as a child would want to say, no, we don't want any mommy and daddy, no, we don't want that. But when you're writing for the exam, you put that aside, because you will get more points and better points if you say, yes, parents should limit their time. So always remember that your personal view, always weigh the argument and choose the side that you will get more points on, more valid points on. So you will not get it if you are saying, no, parents should just let children do what they want. No, that's not going to give you a lot of points. You don't have a lot of arguments there to stand on. The safer argument is, yes, they should control the time spent on devices. So let's look at why. So again, if you see a topic that has to do with should homework be banned, what would you say?
Of course.
No.
Oh, well, so just between you and I, you would say, yes, of course it should be banned. But when you're writing for the exam, what would you say?
No.
No.
Very good.
Definitely not.
No, of course.
Look at our essay plan here. So the introduction, what we are going to do, remember the formula says you should underline. So should parents limit, right, the time their children spend on devices. So what in this question here we can define, because we have to define. D is for define. What can we define?
Devices.
Right, what devices. So if the question said, should homework be banned? What can we define from that question?
Parents.
No?
Homework.
Homework.
What is homework? Very good. So any question you have for persuasive writing, look at what in the question you can put a definition for. And you don't need to Google this. This is something that you can come up with on your own. So you define what are devices. What are devices? What do you think devices are?
It's a device is something you use for your personal use.
The device is something you watch TV.
Very good. So it's a personal electronic.
A device is something you use to get entertainment.
Electronics.
What do you use it for?
A device is an object you use to bring you good happiness or joy.
Is it only homework?
Entertainment.
Research.
Also
used for entertainment.
For entertainment.
Very good. So when we are defining it, we would say devices are electronic items that children often use for entertainment and research, right? So both, we put in both. And then we would say, explain that these devices, children often use it to research homework, or they would use it for entertainment, playing video games, watching TV, their favorite shows. That's the explanation. The thesis now, this is where you come down and you say, however, despite the positives or despite knowing the positives of using devices, parents must control the amount of time because, and you put your 3 reasons. What would be a reason why we should have parents limit? 1.
Because they can damage your eyes.
For your
Very
eyes.
damage your eyes.
For you not to become blind.
Also help you remember what you study.
So I heard damage eyes.
The children could get addicted to it.
Very good. So we're going to say that we are going to say that yes, devices are useful to children. However, parents must limit because of addiction, because it can cause damages to their eyes, and also it can cause them to not focus on their schoolwork. So what you have there in that thesis is your point of view that yes, I agree, and you have 3 points that you're going to develop in the body. And how we develop the body, we put the main point. So every single point you have in that thesis, you will put the main point, explain it, evidence to support, and summarize. So let's go on to the actual essay now. All right, so readers. So Giovanni, read the introduction for us. And I want you all to pay attention to the formula. As I said, define anything in that question you can. Devices, what is homework, extracurricular activities, define those things. And then you explain them and then you put your thesis. So Giovanni, go ahead and read the introduction for us.
Okay. Devices in today's world refer to tablets, computers, laptops, phones, and any other electronic item that children use for education and entertainment. These devices are often used for a number of reasons, such as research, to attend to online classes, to look at movies, or to play video games. While these devices are useful, parents need to limit their children's use as overuse can lead to children falling behind in class, children's eyesight being affected, and children not being fit and healthy.
Very good. Now notice that you all came up with the very same points. The only one that I didn't get was the addiction. I really didn't think about that. But you see, you all have the ideas behind it. So once you can point out the addiction and so on, that's a very, very valid point. So let's look at how we develop the first. So again, the 3 paragraphs in that essay now would be 1, children falling behind in classes, 2, their eyesight being affected, and 3, not being able to be fit and healthy. So let's look at how TEF works. So paragraph 1, the body, the first point. Skylar, read the first one for us.
The overuse of devices can lead to children falling behind in their schoolwork.
Read the entire paragraph. I just put it out with the formula. So continue. This is
so as the time spent on devices is time away from revising schoolwork. While it is understood students can use devices for research, they still need to revise and practice for their revision of topics learned in school. In fact, a survey done by the Ministry of Education in Dominica revealed that in 2023, over 80% of students scored less than 50 in their end-of-term test, which was due to long-time loss of using devices. This statistic is alarming and says that parents need to limit screen time for an improvement in children's performance.
Okay, very good, children. So when you're looking at the paragraph, the structure is the first point is your topic sentence, which is simply a repeat of your point. The overuse of devices can lead to children falling behind in their schoolwork. Then we explain it. This is so because they spend the time spent away from revision, and then we explain it by saying that yes, we know that the devices can be used for research, but they still need to monitor the use. And we have the example here being, and the evidence that a survey done by the Ministry of Education in Dominica revealed that over 80% of students scored less than 50 in their end of term exam. Then we take the S now and we summarize the entire thing. That this statistic is alarming because it says that parents need to. Your language is important, so you have to say they must, they need, without a doubt. So those are some of the words and phrases you'd want to use in your persuasive writing. So far, so good?
Yes, Miss.
Yes, Miss.
Let's look at
Miss.
paragraph 2 is going to at the eye vision, right? So Janine, read paragraph 2 for us. We'll continue on the other page. So go ahead, Janine.
Additionally, overuse of devices can lead to a negative impact on children's eye vision. When children spend hours on their device, there is a blue light that affects their vision. Overuse of devices will have children exposed to this light, which will negatively affect their vision. A recent survey done by the eye specialist in Dominica stated that there has been an increase in the need for glasses in young children, that children as young as 2 are now wearing spectacles to help them to see. This is indeed a very alarming situation, and definitely says parents must limit their children's time spent on devices so that children can have healthier vision during their lives.
Very good. So you all are seeing the pattern again. We start off with the same point, eye vision. We explain why, because the children are on the devices for so long. Then we give a statistic that comes from some source. So eye specialist in Dominica. So you can make up things, right? Ministry of Health, Ministry of this, a team from the university. So this would now support what you are saying as evidence. And then the last sentence would be, well, the last part of the paragraph would be, because of these, because of this statistic, because of this study done, it shows without a doubt parents need to limit the screen time because their children will not have healthy vision, or their children will suffer in the long run with poor vision. So that's our summary sentence. So let's look at the pattern again. The last point here. This is healthy. So Adhari, go ahead and read this one.
Furthermore, overuse of devices will lead to children who are unhealthy due to the lack of exercise. Children need exercise to be fit and healthy. They need to be active to burn off calories and keep their bodies in a healthy state. When they are sitting in front of devices, they are not active. This can lead to being overweight, and diseases such as diabetes can affect them at a very early age. According to the medical journal, a study was conducted where there was a 70% increase of diabetic children in 2023. This is very worrying, as diabetes is a lifestyle disease and it also will complicate the quality of life for these children. Without a doubt, parents need to limit their children's time spent on devices so they can lead healthy lives.
Very good. So again, we're seeing the pattern. You put back the point, which you would have put in your introduction in the thesis statement. You explain the point, you put a statistic, you put some kind of study, some kind of evidence, and then you summarize and you say, this is why we need to limit the devices. And now we have the conclusion. So that's restating the point and then putting an overall summary on it. So Noreen, can you read the conclusion for us?
In the final analysis, there is a need for parents to limit screen time for their children, as this can lead to low grades, poor vision, and lifestyle diseases such as diabetes. There is no way that parents can think not controlling screen time is not important. This control is a must if they want their children to be successful and healthy.
Was that very simple?
Yes, Miss.
Yes, miss.
So who is going?
Yes, miss.
So we have some questions here. So who is going to use the formula? What's the formula for writing the persuasive essay? The introduction, the formula is?
IBC.
DET.
Very good. IBC is the overall formula. The formula for the I, the introduction alone, is DET. D is to define anything in the essay, any question. E is to explain that, and T is for your thesis. What is the formula for the body for every paragraph after that would be?
DDES.
T, right? So the first formula would be, introduction would be DET, D-E-T. The second formula would be T's, like a t-shirt, T's, T-E-E-S. So T is for topic sentence, E is for explain, E is for evidence, and S is to summarize. So let's look at this question too. Should local Dominican history be included as a subject in school? What are we going to define in that question?
Local Dominican history.
Very good. What is local Dominican history? Local Dominican history is history based on
Dominican.
and so, very good. And let's explain that a little bit. So it is important that children learn about the history of Dominica because why is it important to learn history?
So we can keep the
So
history
that they
and
will know
preserve
about
it
their
for
culture.
later generation.
They can teach
Very
it
good.
on
So that,
more
What happened back then?
very
and
good.
more.
So that they would learn about their heritage, culture, full stop. And the thesis statement would be, without a doubt, Dominican history should be included as a subject in schools because one was 3 points. One,
To preserve it for future generations.
very good, to preserve the history for future generations. Two,
To preserve its
to preserve a sense of pride.
To make nobody forget about it.
Well, I think that was the first point. To preserve the history for future generations. Two, to increase a sense of pride.
The tourist.
Did I get the people to know more about the island?
Okay, so the 3 solid points would be: one, to preserve the history for future generations. That's one. Two, for children, students to have a sense of pride in their country. And their number 3, for students to have a sense of pride in their culture, because history also has to do with culture. So we could say culture, or we could put a totally different point. Somebody was saying so that children will be able to showcase the history of Dominica to others. So that could be the third point, that children will be knowledgeable about their own history so that they can share with others, right? So we have 3 solid points as to why it should be part of the subject or the curriculum in schools. Good? And that's right there is your introduction. And then all you do now is use T's, remember the T-shirts, use the T's to help develop each point in that question. Simple?
Yes,
Yes,
So we have homework. Notice we have homework. We have the screen time. We have history. We have devices and AI. Those are seemingly new, interesting topics that may be something that would be tested. So these are things that you can look at closely as well and practice your writing using the formula. Any questions before we move on?
no, miss.
No, miss.
No, miss.
Expository writing. Let me just check something here. Good. Right. So expository writing here. This is now your other question. So this one, I believe, is the most popular question that you all choose because it's simple. It's a process. Making juice, a favorite meal, the national dish. So this one, you just remember to use clear language, use your transitions to link the idea, and you use the implied you is used, right? So when you are finished, you should have a clear idea of what steps to follow to create something. So again, we're using the IBC process for this essay: introduction, body, conclusion, and you must use transitions in this essay. Even with the persuasive, transitions are important, but the transitions are stronger. They are things like without a doubt, in any case, nevertheless, without a shadow of a doubt. So those are the stronger ones that you would use in the persuasive. The expository, because it's giving information, you would use things like first, second, third, next. So I put a list here. So you see both, while, however. So there's a list here. You can use some of them for the persuasive essay, and you can use some of these words here for this process essay. So the word list is here, so you can use it. All right, so we have the example, how to prepare for the grade 6 national assessment. So our introduction is here. So we define, we put our thesis, and then we have the same kind of flow here as the other one. So Marshall, can you read the introduction for this essay?
The National Grade 6 Assessment is an exam that is taken at the end of primary school to place students in secondary school. Definition: the fact that this exam determines your secondary level placement says that you should place an effort into preparing for this exam. We will now look at how to prepare for this exam by looking at study habits with preparation in mind and positive thoughts.
Very good. So it's same DET formula, the same thing with paragraph, the body, paragraph 1. So look at the transitions first, next. So Giovanni, can you read this one?
Okay. First, paragraph 1. Firstly, students must prepare by using good habits. What are good habits? What are good study habits? Study habits are the strategies we use to prepare for the exam, such as having a timetable. To create a timetable, you should write the list of subjects you have to study for and put a time that you would have to do a revision for this subject. For example, you can study mathematics on Monday from 6 to 7 p.m.
Okay, very good. So what we did here, you have what is good study habits and how you do it. You create a timetable, so you explain the point, right? Remember, you're not putting a summary sentence and telling, like in the persuasive, you have to create a study timetable. You are just giving the information. This is what you can do. The first thing you can do is create a study timetable. And how you do it, you put a list of subjects, you put the times you want to do a revision, and you just put an example. All right, so paragraph 2. Machi, can you read this one?
Next, you can schedule your revision according to your own preference. You can create your own study timetable according to the times you work. Best example, you can study early in the morning before school or in the evening after school and weekend.
Okay, very good. So this one again, very simple. You can just select the time that works best for you. So decide if it's early morning, if it's evening time, and work with that time. Paragraph 3. Let's look at what paragraph 3 has. Noreen?
Additionally, when you study, you can read your notes and then ask yourself questions on what you read. You can also test yourself by using similar questions that may come for the exam. You can have someone help by asking you questions on what you learned as well.
Okay, very good. All right. We should, all right. Let me see. Eliana, can you read the next one?
Yes, Miss. Okay. Paragraph
Paragraph 4, go ahead.
Okay, Miss. Paragraph 4. Another way you can prepare for your grade 6 national assessment is by having positive thoughts. When you keep positive thoughts, you will feel more confident and less stressed. This will help you focus and keep your center. A positive mind will help to have clear memory to be able to write the exam.
Very good. Shani, can you read the conclusion for us?
Finally, it is important to have a plan to use to study for the grade 5 National Assessment exam.
Sorry,
You should, excuse me, miss?
sorry, it should have been grade 6, so that's just a typo. Sorry. Go ahead.
You should have a timetable that is done according to your preference and have a plan on the way to revise. A positive mind also helps in your preparation.
Very good. Okay, so that would basically be how we write the process essay. So expository writing is generally to inform. So we don't have any strong language. So again, when we go back to our transition list here, you can choose words first, next, therefore, since, so that you can just again process what you are writing. It's easy to use the IBC formula here, as we have here. Introduction, define any concepts, put your thesis, the body, give your information on the steps involved and explain the steps. We don't have to put evidence or anything like that, no the summary sentence here, and then you just wrap it up with a nice summary of the entire essay. So far, so good. It seems very easy.
Yes, miss.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
very good. So we have
Yes.
some general tips. Do we have any questions on the expository piece?
No, miss.
Oh, so the general, okay, very good. So the general tips would be to read all your questions carefully. Any question that you have on a paper, read it before you choose, read them and see which one you would be best at writing, and that's the one you go with. Then you plan your answer. So if it's narrative, you have underline, fantasy, reality, and errography. If it is the persuasive, you have DET, TEES, and then RS. And if it's the expository, you have IBC. So that is the formulas you're using for any of the essays that would come. And then use appropriate vocabulary and content for the writing selected, right? So any questions you all have, anything that you all want to ask at this point?
No, miss.
Anything
No,
at all?
No, miss.
No, miss.
No,
Did
miss.
you all enjoy
No,
formulas?
No, miss.
Do you think you'll remember formulas?
It was interesting.
So, well, if we don't have any questions, I just want to wish you all the best and remember, preparation brings confidence, right? And you've definitely got this. So I'm going to stop the sharing here. Right. So I know some of you were asking like wrap up and so on. We would wrap up anytime you all are comfortable to wrap up. I want to make sure that everything we discussed today, that you all are very clear. There's no gray areas. I know it was a lot to take in. So if you know that your narrative is the one you might like, focus on the formulas, focus on the persuasive. The formula, so the persuasive is very, very easy. The process, look at those transitions, because you want to stand out from the other essays. And how you will stand out with the process piece, the expository piece, is with your vocabulary. That is going to be important. So look at those transition words, see what you can use, practice some questions, make sure you have some little tips. So for example, if you are looking at as I said, for narrative writing, if you like to the sukunya and so on, do a little character paragraph, do a little paragraph on the setting, so you would have those in your mind. If you are looking at the process, look at a few questions, how to make the national dish, how to make juice, and look at the steps and see if you can plan it out before, so that you have those things prepared. And that's how we prepare for an exam. We look at questions and we mentally try to figure it out and plan it using some of the formulas and the strategies. The strategies really and truly just try to make life. You can look at some of the argument, the persuasive topics, and go through the formulas. So again, I'm just going to go back over to the formulas again, very simply. Narrative writing, you have to underline, fantasy reality, get an idea, and errography. For the persuasive, introduction, DET. And for every paragraph, TEESTs, and then RS for this conclusion. And for the process, IBC. So that's basically the formulas across all 3 writing styles. Everybody is clear with that?
Yes, miss.
Yes,
Miss.
miss. Yes, miss.
Very good, children.
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
So this brings our presentation to an end, children. It was absolutely lovely. I do wish you all the best. Feel free to let Miss know if you all need any assistance. I will try to help in any which way that I can. And all the best to you guys. I know you all have this. So best wishes to you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
miss.
miss.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're most welcome,
Thank
children.
you.
Thank you, miss.
You're most welcome, children. It's my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
You're most welcome. All right. So,
Thank
Miss
you,
Mills,
miss.
I'm passing to you.
Have a good day, miss.
Thank
Have
you.
a
Enjoy.
good day, miss.
Miss Emma, you gonna
Thank
table
you.
your scholarship.
Great
Have a
day.
blessed day.
Your Sunday, miss.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, miss.
Enjoy the miss.
Bye, miss.
Bye, guys, and good luck on your exam. Feel free to.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thanks.
miss.
Bye.
Bye, miss.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Miss
miss.
Mills? Yes. All right. All right. So, Miss Mills, I'm passing it back over to you. Okay.
Sounds good, right?
Was not.
Bye, guys.
Bye, miss.
Bye-bye,
Okay.
miss.
Bye.
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 So, I'm gonna.
Bye.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye, miss.
Bye-bye.